S24 Rundown. I am Zainab Ibrahim, and here's our news in brief. Now the news in details. A political storm is brewing ahead of Nigeria's 2027 general elections following the Independent National Electoral Commission's proposal to conduct a nationwide permanent voter card revalidation exercise. Opposition parties, civil society groups and political movements have raised concerns that the exercise could disenfranchise millions of voters, particularly those in rural areas, citing poor access, low awareness and technical requirements. Critics also question the timing, noting that the exercise is scheduled just months before the election, which could negatively impact voter turnout and public confidence in the electoral process. In another development, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has signed a $1.2 million lobbying contract with a United States-based firm as part of effort to strengthen his international image and political position ahead of Nigeria's 2027 elections. The agreement, reportedly spanning 1 year, is expected to focus on engaging U.S. policymakers and improving his global profile at a time when opposition forces are realigning. The development comes amidst growing competition within the African Democratic Congress, where multiple political heavyweights are jostling for the party's presidential tickets. Also, suspected bandits have killed at least 7 people and abducted 7 others in coordinated attacks on 2 churches in Ariko, Kachia local government area of Kaduna State. The attack occurred on the early Augustine Catholic Church and throwing the community into a panic. A local councillor, Mark Bauer, who confirmed the incident, said casualty figures were still being verified, noting the poor telecommunications in the area may have delayed a rapid security response. Nigeria's battle with Lassa fever has intensified, with the death toll rising to 146 as Bauchi and Taraba states record the highest number of fatalities. Health authorities report that the outbreak continues to spread across multiple states, with a significant number of confirmed cases and deaths, raising concerns among public health officials about containment and response efforts. On the international scene, a new opinion poll in the United Kingdom has ranked Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch as the most popular political party leader in the country. The survey conducted by More in Common showed Badenoch recording a net approval rating of -9, a significant improvement from her previous -32 rating before the party's conference last year. She placed ahead of other leaders including Nigel Farage and Ed Davey, while Labour leader Keir Starmer ranked lowest in the poll. Also, on international news, Iran has intensified its military actions across the Middle East, launching fresh missile and drone strikes on targets in Israel, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates, following a strong warning from U.S. President Donald Trump. The escalation comes after Trump demanded that Tehran reopen the strategic Strait of Hormuz, threatening severe consequences if it failed to comply. In response, Iranian authorities warned of devastating retaliation against any further attacks on civilian infrastructure, signaling a deepening crisis in the region. Moving on to business news with Halima Abdurrauf. Hello, Halima. What should we expect today?
This time, First, President Bola Tinubu has approved the 3.3 trillion naira payment plan to clear long-standing debts in Nigeria's power sector under the Presidential Power Sector Financial Reforms Program. According to the presidency, the settlement covers liabilities accumulated between February 2015 and March 2025. Officials say the move is designed to restore confidence across the electricity markets, improve liquidity, and support more reliable supply, with broader reforms also expected to include better metering and service-based tariffs. Implementation is already underway. The government say 15 power generation companies have signed settlement agreement worth 2.3 trillion naira, while 501 billion naira has so far been raised for the program, with 223 billion naira already disbursed. The intervention is aimed at easing pressure across the generation and gas supply value chain, which has long weighed on investment and system performance. Next, Nigeria's banking sector is facing a key regulatory deadline. The Central Bank of Nigeria has given lenders until April 30th, 2026 to submit board-approved risk-based capital stress test reports, following a directive issued on March 6th. The new framework marks a shift away from simply measuring the size of a capital towards testing its resilience under adverse credit conditions. The CBN says the policy is intended to protect the gains of the recent recapitalization exercise and strengthen capital adequacy oversight. The framework builds on both year 2020 and the 2019 stress testing guidelines, extending scrutiny to both on and off balance sheet exposures. Analysts at DataPro say the exercise is effectively the ultimate filter for recapitalization, warning that large capital buffers alone do not guarantee stability if asset quality weakens. The firm says the model includes a 12-month simulation migration of assets under stress scenarios. And in global markets, oil prices were volatile in Asian and Gulf trading on Monday as investors weighed escalating U.S.-Iran tensions against tentative diplomatic efforts. Reuters reported that Brent crude rose 0.7% to $109.79 a barrel in Gulf markets trading after President Donald Trump threatened further strikes on Iranian infrastructure unless Tehran reopens the Strait of Hormuz by its Tuesday deadline. Reuters also note that roughly one-fifth of global oil and liquefied gas supplies normally pass through the strait, underlining why the waterways remains central to market sentiment. At the same time, talks are continuing behind the scenes. Axios reported that the United States, Iran, and regions of a possible 45-day ceasefire, although there's chances of a near-term breakthrough remain uncertain. The White House declined to comment. For now, traders are balancing the risk of wider supply disruptions against hopes that diplomacy may yet prevent a further escalation. And that's it, the latest from the world of business and global markets. I am Halima Abdulrauf. We'll be joining Zainab Ibrahim and Abubakar Turaki for newspaper review after the break. Stay with us.
Now to the newspaper review, and I'm here with Abubakar Turaki. Hello, Abubakar.
Hello.
Good to see you again today.
Thank you.
So today on our newspaper review, we'll be starting with a Punch front page, and it says political storm brews over PVC revalidation. This seems to be a very familiar headline for you. I think I must have seen it somewhere this morning. What are your comments about that?
Zainab, the last time we had our conversation here with you. I told you based on Nigerians' opinion, I told you INEC is going to be under fire, and whatsoever INEC did, Nigerians will interpret it in another dimension. Yeah. Recently, I saw the People's Democratic Party, ADC, and some civil society organizations are going against what INEC did. So based on the constitutional right, INEC have the right to revalidate the voters, to know the number of people that are still active, and to wipe out the number of voters that are not still active. Yes. But the concern is because I saw Malam Bolaji Abdullahi of ADC, he was talking about like what INEC did. It came at a very wrong time, because it's only like some period to election. Why will INEC reintroduce that thing? So the fear is maybe the opposition are thinking that INEC is going to use that thing in order to do one or two manipulation. That is what they are all view, and that is what they perceive. And I saw the raised concern about are INEC willing to do the needful, because they have a very minimal time. They raise concern about the accessibility, meeting people before this election. Many people find it very difficult to register their own PVC, and now look at it, less than a year to election, INEC are reintroducing this thing.
I think, Abakar, I think it is more of the voters' problem than opposition problem, because we're already dealing with a lot of political apathy, you understand. It is hard already to convince people to come out and vote with the way our political leaders are acting, you understand? So they don't feel like they need to vote, or they don't feel like it is necessary, their votes don't count. So coming at this stage when people are already tired to revalidate the PVC, I think that is what people are complaining about, that the timing is so wrong, because we already have high level of political apathy. So how do you convince people? We will already try to register to come back and revalidate.
Of course, INEC have to use the instrument of government, like using National Orientation Agency in promoting massive awareness to let people know that what they are doing, they are trying to clean the system. Because as I've seen, they are trying to have their own database and make sure that people are going to vote, people that are up to age of voting, and people that register, there's no any registration duplication. And you know, sometimes many people answer the clarion call, they are no longer alive and their name are still in the INEC portal. So it's actually a right decision. It's come at a wrong moment based on what ADC and some civil society organizations are calling for. But nevertheless, you know, INEC is an institution of government, it's still part of the government, and the government can do anything as long as it have the zeal to do that.
Regarding this, I would just say that INEC is on a hot seat. Whatever steps they are taking right now, some people will milk it and make it seem like it's an opposition something, it's a pressure. But we still also need to look at the fact that where it affects the citizen, and all of that. But I really wish INEC well, and I hope the revalidation works out and help what the actual reasons they are aiming to do that for. Now, secondly, let's move to the next paper, and it says, this is on the Vanguard front page, and it says, Tinubu, ex-minister, faced tough battles in state. Wow.
When I saw that headline, I just believe that politics in Africa is a huge and lucrative business, because most politicians look at politics as a way of enriching themselves, not as a way of service to people.
That's very known.
Yeah, that is a very wrong perception, perhaps, if I may say, because in other climes, politics is a way of service to the people, and politics is a way of bringing development to your society. But most of the ministers now that are facing battle in their state, it is a battle between two people, between the incumbent governors and the masses. Because most of them, allegedly, when they come to Abuja, they feel like Abuja is a very comfortable zone for them. They don't care of checking their own people. And whether you are elected or whether you are appointed, at least your people are your own constituency. Part of the ministers, ex-ministers that resigned, I saw it from the paper, they cite the former Minister of Transportation, Saido Ahmad Al-Ghali, who relinquished, and he is now going to join the gubernatorial race in Gombe State. Part of what they say, like, he is having they are not having a cordial relationship with the incumbent governor of Gombe State. So when
you need to belong or you'll be in trouble.
Of course, yes, because what I want people to understand is this thing is just a matter of time. And you are there not just because you are the best. You are there just because it's a test from God Almighty. You have to go there, think twice, think outside the box, and remember, it's just a matter of 4 years or 8 years. And nevertheless, try and establish a good relationship between the governed and the governed. That is the only thing you can save. And many people are going to be facing this kind of issue.
Do you know what makes that statement funny to me, that they should remember they're just going to stay there for 4 years and all? I don't think our political leaders, African leaders, have that conscience or have the time to think about that. They're just staying there for a while. It is like a permanent space for them. Politics is like a permanent space for them. So I don't think they ever have the thought that they are leaving. If I thought they are leaving, they're trying to pass it down to the next generation.
I think we need to say kudos to Nigerians, precisely the Nigerians, because if you look at Africa, Africa entirely, Nigeria is the giant of Africa, and from 1999 to date, Nigeria have been witnessing a successful democratic government without any military intervention.
Compared to some other African, yes, we are better off. Not like we are absolutely perfect.
Most of the African countries, like military intervention is sufficient. Look at places like Mali. Look at places like a lot of places in Africa are now under the rule of they are under coup d'etat, and it's still kudos to us Nigerians, because if you look at Cameroon, Cameroon have witnessed a single president for the past 30 to 40 years. So I think even though democracy is not our own system of government, we borrow it, we adopt it. I believe with more proper orientation, reorientation, and enlightenment, with putting the masses at heart, putting the country at heart, Nigeria will go into a development stage.
Why is it that it's as if the checks and balance or the accountability comes after these people leave the office? Why can't there be this accountability while the person is in office? Is it that the people who are doing this accountability only have the power to do it when the person leaves office?
You know, sometimes if you're among the executive, they have what we call immunity. That is why they are called executive governor and the president. You cannot checkmate them while they are office. But in the aspect of appointment, like ministers and the rest, you can checkmate them. But the problem is most of the people that have the responsibility of checking them, most of them are actually, they are being tilted toward doing something else. Because in a situation whereby some few amount of people have actually take the chunk of the resources and siphon it into their pocket allegedly, how do you expect check and balance?
That is why they will never want to leave the position, because you will see that if these political aspirants are retiring from a position, they're either going to contest for another position.
Of course, that is the nature of mine, because I can't remember the person that made that quotation. He said that like nearly all men are equal, but if you want to test the ability of a man, give him power. And power is lucrative, power is sweet, and the miniature that come with power is only God Almighty.
Another space for them to cover their tracks.
We have to put it at the back of our mind. Most of the third world politicians is when they become age enough, they will now start enjoying the dividend of power. That is why many political analysts are calling Nigeria a space of political gerontocratic arena.
Yeah, so I think we now know the reasons. One of the reasons why they will never want to leave the space is to always cover their tracks.
But we still have a long way to go. If you look at most of the almost 60% of Nigerians are young and agile youth.
But democracy should be getting better, not getting worse, because somehow, somewhat in Nigeria, it's looking like we are having a one-party system. And one of the attributes of democracy is the competition among different political parties. But somehow we seem to not be experiencing that competition, and especially ahead of this 2027 election, it's looking like everything is diverting to one political party. So I hope we don't get to that level.
We are not praying for that. And it's not a one-party system. It is what we call one-party dominance, because we still have the presence of ADC,
yeah, that's what
PDP.
We call it now.
Yeah, one-party dominance, yes.
But if we don't take notes, I hope it doesn't get.
We pray so, and I believe democracy will flourish.
Right, amen. So finally, on our Daily Trust front page, it says, funding without flow, water crisis deepens across states. Before I allow you to talk, it is how we always have budgets for a lot of things, but it doesn't get to the grassroots. Was there a budget for water? And why are the grassroots not having it? We seem to be providing everything for ourselves in this country. We have budgets for roads, communities come together to make roads. We have budgets for water, community, people individually, not even community, they try to fend for themselves, get water from themselves. And these are people that are able to get it because these are expensive amenities. What about community that cannot afford this? How do they survive? How do these budgets get to the grassroots?
Zainab, let me borrow from the word of Baba Yosule, who recently made that in his, I think, Facebook account. Baba Yosule said, and I quote, basically now Nigerians, we are living in a community in court where the government is no longer providing anything for us.
Absolutely, we are doing everything practically ourselves.
If you need water, you need to buy pure water or bottled water. If you need education, you need to take yourself and your children to a private school. If you health care, you need to take yourself to a private clinic. In fact, he concluded by saying that if you need security, you need to raise up your hand and pray to God to protect you. Because even the security agencies are unprotected.
Because for people that can afford security, actually afford the security. But for us that cannot afford the security, we are the one raising our hands to God to pray to
protect us. So the level of water in Nigeria, I think many people are attributing it to the lack of sincerity and willingness from the government side. Because if you look at the 6th geopolitical zone in Nigeria, 36 states, 774 local government in Nigeria. Let me give you an instance. In Gombe, we have that Inkowa Dam, we have Bakalori Dam, we have Kainji Dam, we have Tiga Dam, we have Kusala Dam in Kano, we have many dams, we have Alo Dam. I think in Borno State, if I stand to be corrected, these are all dams that if we really have the wherewithal to harness them, I think there is no any household that will not benefit from 24/7 water in Nigeria.
We really appreciate God. We have the resources, but
we have the
problem of continuity, seriously.
What Professor Patrick Lumumba said, the problems with Africa is those with power have no idea and those with idea have no power. So look at this scenario.
You know, Abubakar, I would have loved to continue this conversation. It is actually a sad situation in Nigeria that and very soon everyone will start paying tax. We hope this will be useful, but we practically provide everything. For a country that have leaders, this shouldn't be happening.
I also want to urge the leaders, there is no any country that developed by collecting tax from their own people. A country only develops when it's actually tilt its own view towards industrialization.
There'll be another conversation for another day. So now let's move to our next segment, which is S24 Report. Coming to you, of course, after the break.
In a country where the minimum wage is just 70,000 naira, but the houses in the capital city are skyrocketing, and apartments range from 1 million to 2 million. The question is, who are the people paying this rent and how are they coping? The conversation on the street today is housing prices in Abuja and the coping mechanism. We hear opinions from the street.
First of all, the reason is because simple economics has it that when the demand for something is very, very much and the supply is not as much as the demand, then of course the prices will go up. You know, in Abuja, for instance, in this place, it's supposed to be a satellite town. The influx of people into this area is so tremendous. And the houses there are not really enough.
As a tenant, it's been a great increase from where I came in initially. When I came in, the flat I took was around 500,000, but as we speak now, it has gone more than 400%. We're looking at about 2 million to 2.5 million.
My day it's not fair because this year now I'm making 3 times and my landlord is increasing my rent. Last year was 170,000 naira. Recently, this year is 210 now I'm paying now.
I know I pay 45,000. or 1 room. I understand, but they have increased it to 80, to 150.
For instance, a room in this part of the town, this letter, a room which we call a studio room that has a kitchen and a convenience, goes for as high as 700, between 700 and 1 million naira. And a 1-bedroom flat, which has a living room and a room with the convenience as well as the kitchen, goes for between 1.5 and 2 million. Then a 2-bedroom flat here, landlords ask for as much as 2.5 to 3 million. And so on and so forth for bigger houses.
In response to the minimum wage and how it aligns with the current rent, it's too exorbitant for a normal people within the minimum bracket to cope with.
It's really not fair, considering what people take, considering the value, the salary, the take-home pay that Nigerians get, and even those who work for private companies who actually earn much more than the minimum wage of 70,000, 75,000 Nigerian naira. Cannot afford to pay for these things. So because they really have to make do, you see families that put money together to live in a flat that should ordinarily take 3 people. You see 6 people squeeze into the place.
I think it's a combination of the two. Government does not have enough housing units to accommodate people. So the disparity between the government houses and the private owners too actually has the same problem that necessitated them to increase this stuff. So if the government wants to come in now, they can have their own units and people can make a choice. But currently now, we have more private than the one that is government.
Nigeria has a deficit of 21 million houses. So if the federal government can build 21 million houses, then it will affect the price downward. Sometimes some greedy agents, they have a certain percentage that they collect in the event they bring clients or someone who rents the house from the landlord. They take 5%. Now they've increased it to 10% because almost everything over the years has gone up. So they take 10% as against 5% they take before. But yes, it still affects them. It still affects agents. It still affects us because the patronage is low. So if 3 years ago you could rent out 4 or 5 houses or sell 4 or 5 houses, you get more money than now that in a week you might just be able to rent 1 house. And secondly, it's difficult again because the lawyers have decided to double. They've left litigation and after doubling into agency because the money is more. So they'll say, I'm the lawyer. The lawyer will ask the tenant to pay a percentage. And when he pays that percentage, he might not have anything again.
At least let them help us cover risk. At least let them help us increase our minimum wages. Because when I'm working, how much are they paying me? And expenses are collecting the whole money. Every day may end up holding some people money because you don't meet up for many things.
So what people do is that they move outskirts, they move further down, further inside, perhaps towards the border states, like Nasarawa State, like Ogun State, to live because you can't live close to town.
Tenants don't have any choice than to get a affordable rent to get. So now we are even extending to Jikwe, which is a neighboring place from here too. But I think that one too now, the price difference is not much. So government has to do a lot to actually help us to see how we can get out of this situation.
Welcome back from that break, and this is Political Arena with me, Halima Abdulrauf. Today on Political Arena, we turn our focus beyond Earth to a mission shaping global power dynamics. Artemis 2 marks the United States' return to deep space with humans on board after more than 5 decades. Unlike the earlier Artemis 1, this mission will carry astronauts around the moon and back. It will not land on the moon. However, it will test human survival, system reliability, and deep space capability. This mission is not just about science. It is about power, positioning, and global influence. And the center of this effort are the Orion spacecraft and the Space Launch System. Together, they represent billions of dollars in investment and years of political commitment. The question, however, is simple. Why now? At a time when economies face pressure and citizens demand better living conditions, governments still commit massive resources to space exploration. Supporters argue that space drives innovation, jobs, and long-term economic growth. Critics, however, see it as an elite ambition disconnected from everyday realities. Beyond economics, Artemis 2 signals a new phase in global competition. The United States is not alone in this race. China and other space powers are advancing rapidly toward lunar missions. So this is no longer just exploration, it is a contest for dominance in the next frontier. And then comes the aftermath. If Artemis 2 succeeds, it strengthens U.S. leadership and fast-tracks future lunar landings under Artemis 3. However, if it fails, the consequences will extend beyond science. Funding could face scrutiny, public confidence could decline, political accountability will come into sharp focus. And today, the debate goes beyond Earth. Discussing this with me is my colleague Samira Usman Adam to understand what Artemis 2 is in a simple term. So Samira, welcome to Political Arena.
Thank you for having me, Halima.
Let's talk about this trending issue. I know for me as a layperson, when I saw Artemis, I started thinking, what is it? So what is Artemis in simple terms from your research and what you've encountered both on the internet and in persons from experts?
Okay. Artemis is it's a spaceship, let's say a flight that is usually used to travel to other part of the world.
Earth.
Yeah, but
Earth.
other part of the world. Earth is another, is parts of, should I say, some of the components of the world. We have the moon, the sun, the earth itself is something different. So Artemis is a spaceship that is used to travel around the world.
Okay.
So that is just in simple term, yeah.
And why this time? Because a lot of people are seeing the social gaps, the inequalities all around. Why do you think US is spending billions on space right now? What is the strategic goal in your simple terms?
If I call it flexing their muscles, so that like the world we understand, we are still there. We are still the people you are trying to push away. Because looking at the recent war happening around the globe, you will understand that there is a shift. Iran, Israel, and the US trying to back one of the countries. So like you will notice a shift in people not paying much attention to the US the way they usually do. So I think at that point they now understand, okay, we are trying to fade away from the face of the earth. Iran is now taking center stage. People are praising them. People are saying they are doing better than we are doing. We were just being at the forefront from the very beginning. Okay, what should we do differently to bring back the attention to ourselves? And I feel that is one of the reasons that make them bring up the issue of Artemis, because from my research, they were not supposed to travel now. It was supposed to be something they are still at the phase of doing their research.
Do you now see risk in doing that?
Yeah, there is a risk in doing that. But one thing is for sure, you know, they have the technical know-how and the technology that we do not know about, which might have been one of the reasons that influenced them to take the to fast track the decision and just make a move with it. And one thing different is Artemis 1, it was just the spaceship that traveled and came back. But this time around, there were people, there were astronauts. And part of the astronaut, there is a woman. So like it kind of drew attention to the world about what is this about? Why are they doing this? And I think 50 years ago, there was Apollo 2. Which many of us just knew about it after going deep to understand what is the space about, what are the astronauts particular about, what do they do differently from other professions. Because just like journalism, astronomism is other profession on its own. So like a career path. Why do they feel this is the right time for them today? They're just trying to show people, okay, we are still relevant. We are not dead on arrival as like people think.
The Iran-US Israel war looks like it wasn't going to last because most of the infrastructure of Iran was destroyed at some point.
Yeah.
So that was why there is let's show that we are still there. Okay. So is Artemis 2 mainly about science to you, about just global power and competition? Because there are other
exactly. Yeah, it was supposed to be about science, but like for US, it's not about science any longer. They are trying to show power. Like we have the capacity, we can do it, we have all the resources we need. And at this point in time, I don't think this is the right time for them to do that. Looking at the constraints globally, and the volatility happening, everything happening around the world with scarcity of, should I say, crude oil, with the blockage of Strait of Hormuz and other things that they should consider before even putting this in place. And the financial restraint that was on this particular thing, I think the finance was not little. It was supposed to be considered, if I would advise, it should have gone to something different. Maybe looking at the way people are complaining about, should I say, people are complaining about hardship. So like even in the US, definitely.
The whole Iran war is affecting global oil prices everywhere. And people are affected.
It's not just about affecting the US. It's not affecting we in Nigeria alone. The US is even taking, should I say, a bigger blow than we are, because they are more close to the issue than we are. But it's something that is general. So like the focus shouldn't have been at this particular moment, flexing muscles. It should have been exactly. Exactly.
It was supposed to.
Yeah, sure.
So, what does success of this spaceship shift, or what change does it bring? And if it fails, what do you think will be the aftermath?
The aftermath. I think one thing that drew my attention more to is when they lost contact with the Earth for over 40 minutes.
Wow.
Yes, they lost contact with the world for over 40 minutes. And I was sitting there, like, okay, if they don't know who to contact, how do we know if they are alive or they are gone? Because if they are gone, you won't hear about them. You won't. That's the end of it. So like, why do they think
maybe they probably passed through something and the signal was lost?
Okay, I think
that's the gamble.
They left the Earth last night. If I could recall, they posted a picture and said they are bidding forward to the Earth. They are entering into the moon. So like, if they're entering into the moon, that is definitely there will be a glitch, because like, the technical
the technology that took them to that point may not be strong enough to withstand
withstanding the pressure it's facing from the moon. But at that particular moment, I was like, okay, if they succeed, it's a history. That means they've beaten Apollo 2, they've beaten Artemis 1, now they've beaten Artemis 2. They will be targeting Artemis 3. So
what if it fails?
If it fails,
it's also history.
Yes, it's also making history, because I saw the way the woman is being praised as a Canadian. She's joining, the only woman. She's joining them in taking risk, because it's taking risks. And you know, as we say, the white people love taking risks. They find pleasure in taking risks. Yes, exactly.
I think we're also evolving. So, in your opinion, is space exploration more like a necessity or luxury? Because people still feel it's billionaire people flexing muscle.
Space exploration should not be a luxury. It's a necessity. Okay. It's like I'm traveling to the south to explore, to see what they do, what do they have. Yes, I'm from the north, so like I'm trying to understand another part of the world differently. So they are trying to explore to see what is different from where they usually live. So I don't think it's something of luxury. It's in my opinion, it's something of.
It goes a lot of
exactly. It goes a lot of money, and like the money, I still repeat, it should have been well utilized beyond exploration.
You've just said it's luxury, and then you're talking. Okay, let's leave that. In your opinion, again, should government prioritize space missions over urgent social needs like jobs, healthcare, and even education?
No.
Okay.
Like, When we talk about social needs, there are things that the government should totally understand. This is
non-negotiable.
Yes, this is non-negotiable. This is something that is talking about life and death. This is the exploration can wait, but social needs cannot wait. But you know, we have a type of government that prioritize what they feel is okay with them. Yes, exactly. They don't look at what the social, what are the social needs of the people. They don't put people first, and I think that is one thing that determines how they came to the conclusion of taking to the exploration of the space. Exactly.
Social needs. Well, let's take a look at other superpowers that are trying to be the big guys in the space world, and China is one of them. What do you think this progress with Artemis 2 would mean to China as is?
Okay, I think at this point, there is no country that explores like China. They do things that, well, sometimes if you see them, you'll be thinking, okay, how did they come up with this technology? How did they even get the idea? How did they put the idea into, yes, exactly.
Making it to be life,
bringing it to fruition, like bringing it forefront so that people will see it and understand it. I think if this succeeds, China will have more power. Definitely, you know,
China or US?
China.
Oh, okay.
Yes, if there is success, China will claim the glory more than the US.
Oh, why?
Yes, because China feels like in terms of technology now, they are leading.
Oh, you mean China builds this Artemis?
Yes.
Oh, good.
So like they will claim it and say, this is our work, this is what we did, and like we were the one that were at the forefront of pushing whatever it is to get to that space.
So what should ordinary citizens gain, or what should they expect to gain from missions like the Artemis 2, job creation, technology, etc.?
For, let's say, science students, this is an avenue for them to understand the importance of research, because there are people in Nigeria. I don't think there is anyone that will tell you, I want to be an astronaut today, because
no, I know young persons that I say I want to be astronaut, but they can't just practice in Nigeria.
Let's say they cannot practice, not the issue of them saying they want to be.
Children watch cartoons.
Yes, exactly.
And young persons watch cartoons and I want to be an astronaut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely, if they can practice here, that is where opportunities come in, like seeking for scholarship. If you abroad, get scholarships.
I remember there was even a young lady from Africa, I don't know which country, whether it's Nigeria or a neighboring country, that was part of the space. I think there is the list of astronauts that tested something in recent years, and she was part of, and she was a black person. I know it was in a West African country or so.
So like if Nigerians can take this opportunity and go out, because seriously, whether we like it or not, we have to tell ourselves this truth. We are not in a society where you will say, no, Nigeria will be better. Let me stay till when Nigeria is better before I start.
Go out.
Yes, go out there, explore, bring something back, and be the person that, bring the change you are actually looking forward to seeing. I think that would be something I can say. And when it comes to job creation, it's like we are talking about US here, so it's not about us. In Nigeria, we don't. I think the only thing we can tap in from is understanding the whole context. Let's understand the whole context. What is one thing they are doing different that we know, that we should tap from that? And I feel that is one thing we should pay attention. I was surprised at the level of attention this drew. Not just from the US, even Nigerians are on Twitter, on Facebook. You will see people posting, asking questions, and discussing about it so much. So I think like beyond just watching and admiring what the US is doing, we have so much to tap in from them.
Yeah, thank you so much, Samira. It's been really a light conversation for us to understand this better, and that's the essence of even doing research as a journalist. You've seen a lot about it. Thank you so much for joining me on this. And that's all on Political Arena. Up next is our documentary segment. Watch out. In Africa's boardrooms, a few names do not merely command attention, they provoke expectation. Say Tony Elumelu, and the room hears more than a businessman. It hears banking, power, capital, entrepreneurship, and a stubborn belief that Africa can be built from within. But that belief did not emerge in comfort. It was forged in risk, in volatility, and in institutions that could fail. In a continent rich in promise, yet repeatedly tested by weak infrastructure, policy shocks, and global uncertainty. So the real question is, how did a young Nigerian salesman become one of Africa's most influential investors without inheriting an empire, without escaping adversity, and without giving up on the continent when many others did? Tony Onyemechi Elumelu is Nigerian-born, Nigerian-trained, and by his own account began far from privilege and prestige. On his official profile, he traces his rise from selling copiers to becoming one of the continent's most consequential business leaders. He later earned a master's degree in economics from the University of Lagos, after earlier studying economics at Ambrose Ali University, formerly Bendel State University. But credentials alone do not explain what came next. In the 1990s, Nigeria's banking sector was not a tidy cathedral of confidence. It was crowded, fragile, and often unstable. Elumelu entered that world young, ambitious, and largely unknown. Then came the first major gamble. He acquired a distressed institution, Crystal Bank, became its chief executive, and renamed it Standard Trust Bank. On his official biography, he is described as having taken a struggling bank and within 7 years pushed it into Nigeria's top tier. UBA's own leadership profile says he turned the financial distress STB into a top 5 player. But surviving Nigeria's banking woes was only the beginning. In 2005, the Central Bank of Nigeria forced a dramatic sector-wide recapitalization requiring banks to raise their capital base to 25 billion naira. The exercise cut the number of banks from 89 to 25. It was one of the most consequential restructuring in modern Nigeria finance. That same year, Elumelu led the merger of Standard Trust Bank and United Bank for Africa, which UBA described as the largest merger in sub-Saharan Africa's banking sector at the time. That merger changed the scale of the story. What had been a turnaround play became a continental project. Today, UBA says it operates in 20 African countries as well as the United Kingdom, the United States, France, and the UAE, serving more than 45 million customers and employing about 25,000 people group-wide. But even that ascent was not linear. In 2010, Nigeria's central bank imposed a 10-year tenure limit for bank chief executives. Elumelu's run as UBA CEO ended under that regulatory shift. UBA's 2010 CEO statement explicitly stated that he would retire on July 31st, 2010, in accordance with the new rule. Reuters reported at the time that the policy capped bank CEOs at 10 years. Years later, Elumelu reflected on that period as a profound turning point in his life. And this is where the story becomes more than biography. Because some people read disruption as an ending, Elumelu read it as a second act. In 2010, he founded an investment company, Tony Elumelu Foundation, the investment that spanned around power, energy, financial services, hospitality, real estate, healthcare, and technology, operating across 24 countries worldwide. Then he gave his worldview a name, Africapitalism. The Tony Elumelu Foundation defines it as a call to action for businesses to make decisions that create both economic prosperity and social wealth. In plain terms, it is the argument that Africa's private sector must do more than make money. It must help build markets, expand opportunity, and strengthen society itself. That philosophy would soon be tested against reality, because betting on Africa is not a slogan, it is an operating choice. And Africa does not offer easy terrain. Elumelu himself has acknowledged that entrepreneurs often operate in a tough operating environment, and that success on the continent requires not just vision but also patience, perseverance, and advocacy for a more enabling business climate. That context matters even more now. As of early 2026, the IMF projects global growth at 3.3%, but it still faces risk from policy uncertainty and geopolitical tensions. For sub-Saharan Africa, the IMF says growth is showing resilient, yet remains exposed to tight borrowing conditions and a deterioration in the global trade and aid landscape. Nigeria itself reflects that tension. Reuters reported in February 2026 that annual inflation slowed to 15.10% in January, its 10th straight monthly decline. Days later, Reuters also reported that Nigeria's net foreign exchange reserves had risen sharply to $34.8 billion by the end of 2025, signaling stronger buffers and improved confidence after reforms. In other words, there are signs of stabilization. Yes, but nobody serious would call the terrain easy. And yet it keeps building. Within this broader ecosystem of influence, the institutions aligned with a strategy are still expanding. Transcorp announced record 2025 revenue of 544 billion naira and profit after tax of 136 billion naira. UBA continues to deepen its pan-African and global reach. And the Tony Elumelu Foundation says that since 2015, it has funded over 24,000 entrepreneurs, trained 2.5 million Africans, helped create more than 1.5 million jobs, and supported businesses that have generated over $4.2 billion in revenue. That is why Tony Elumelu matters, not because he became wealthy. Africa has seen wealthy men before, not because it speaks about transformation. Many do. He matters because he tried to turn an idea into infrastructure, banking into reach, capital into enterprise, philanthropy into pipeline, and disruption into reinvention. Time recognized him in its 2020 Time 100 list, but perhaps the more enduring measure is this. When the continent's risks are named, currency pressure, weak infrastructure, policy inconsistency, global shocks, he has chosen again and again not to retreat from Africa, but to invest deeper into it. So maybe Tony Elumelu's story is not really about one banker. Maybe it's about a tougher proposition. Africa will not be transformed by hope alone. It will require institutions, capital, discipline, risk appetite, and leaders willing to build in the middle of uncertainty.
Welcome back from the documentary. Now to technology, innovation, and the digital world with me, Aisha Mohammed. Here's what's shaping ICT from Nigeria to the global stage. The federal government has announced plans to establish a National Cybersecurity Coordination Council to strengthen the nation's capacity against growing cyber threats. According to the Ministry of Communication, Innovation, and Digital Economy, the council will improve coordination among agencies and enhance the protection of critical digital infrastructure. As efforts to secure the digital space intensify, attention is also turning to who gets to participate in it. Timothy Akano, CEO of New Horizons Nigeria, is calling for greater inclusion of visually impaired individuals in the ICT sector. Speaking during an outreach, he emphasized their untapped potential and the need for accessible tools and training to ensure they are not left behind in Nigeria's digital growth. While inclusion remains key, the country is also focusing on turning plans into tangible results. Beyond infrastructure, technology is also being deployed to tackle everyday challenges like food production. Nigeria is increasingly leveraging artificial intelligence, GPS, and satellite technologies to improve agricultural productivity. These tools are helping farmers make data-driven decisions, monitor crops, and respond better to changing conditions, all in a bid to strengthen food security. However, across the continent, the tech ecosystem is facing a different kind of challenge. A report by Tech Cabal shows that while startup deals are increasing across Africa, there are fewer investors' exit opportunities, such as acquisitions and stock market listings. Raising concerns are long-term sustainability. Even as these challenges persist, innovation conversations are expanding beyond Africa to the global stage.
At a transport and logistics forum in St. Petersburg, experts highlighted AI-driven solutions as critical to solving infrastructure challenges. That global conversation is being further shaped by new perspective from industry leaders. And that's it for ICT World. After the break, Khadija Mohammed is on standby with entertainment updates.
Hello and welcome back from the break. And thank you, Aisha. Now, let's dive into the entertainment space. The Nigerian actress Lillian Afegbay has issued a public apology following her reaction to not being nominated for the African Magic Viewers' Choice Awards. In her statement, she admitted her initial response was out of character, explaining that she reacted from a place of disappointment and entitlement. She added that her project, To Kill a Monkey, felt like a major breakthrough, making the snub more emotional for her. Lillian acknowledged that her earlier comments were disrespectful to the award organizers, nominees, her team, and fans, stating clearly that the apology should have come earlier and that her reaction had no excuse. But online reaction remained mixed, with some Nigerians commending her for taking accountability, while others insist the apology came too late and shouldn't have been necessary in the first place. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Nollywood veteran actress Omotola Jalade is trending after a viral clip showed her snapping, "You are not ready," when an interviewer asked her to introduce herself at a recent red carpet event. Netizens quickly resurfaced a video of Oscar winner Michael B. Jordan graciously introducing himself during a street interview, sparking debate over celebrity etiquette, while some defend Omotola's frustration after 300-plus films. Others argue humility costs nothing, regardless of status. And the Nigerian influencer Simi Dabson is trending online after video showed her clubbing with her friends shortly after her marriage. The outing has sparked mixed reaction, with some critics saying married women should avoid such environments, while others argue that marriage should not limit personal freedom or social life. But the conversation has since grown into a wider debate on societal expectation, gender roles, and individuality in marriage. And lastly, on the international space, the award-winning singer and songwriter Ray has topped the album chart for the first time with this music May Contain Hope. The album, which she released last week, is her second number on this year, following the hugely successful single Where Is My Husband, which she debuted at Glastonbury last summer and is now approaching its billionth stream on Spotify. And that's a wrap-up on today's entertainment updates for today. Coming up next is the sports news after the break.
Welcome back from that break. Hello and welcome to Sports. Here is your latest sport update for today from across Nigeria, Africa and the world. In global football, PSV and Devon have been crowned champions of the Dutch Eredivisie after rivals Feyenoord dropped points, sealing the title with games to spare. The victory marks another dominant domestic campaign for PSV and reinforces their position as one of Europe's most consistent sides this season. Elsewhere in cup football, Southampton delivered one of the biggest upset of the week by defeating Arsenal 2-1 to book a place in the FA Cup semi-finals, keeping their historic run alive as the only non-Premier League side remaining in the competition. In basketball, attention is firmly on the NCAA March Madness final, where University of Connecticut will face University of Michigan in a blockbuster championship clash. UConn are chasing another title, while Michigan come in with one of the most explosive offenses in the tournament. In other basketball news, Auburn claimed the 2026 NEAT championship after an overtime victory over Tulsa, marking a major milestone for the program and adding to an already dramatic college basketball season. There was also controversy off the court as the University of Virginia dismissed head coach Amaka Agugua Hamilton following allegations of a toxic team environment despite a successful season that saw the team reach the NCAA Sweet 16. In tennis and wider global sports, the calendar remains packed with ATP and WTA tournament continuing across Europe, while major leagues in basketball, baseball, and hockey push toward crucial end-of-season phases. Off-the-field, structural changes in college sport continue to generate debate, with discussions around expanding the NCAA tournament and broader reforms shaping the future of collegiate athletics. Looking ahead, the NCAA Championship will headline today's action. Football Cup competition move closer to the final stages, and domestic league across Europe continues to define their champions. That's your sport update for today. Over to Pigeon News with Sadiqa Yusuf.
Thank you, Samira, for that story. Una welcome, my people. From pitch to pigeon, make we yarn wetin dey really happen for town. My name is Sadiqa Yusuf, and this one na your pigeon story. My people, plenty story dey happen for Nigeria as 2027 general election dey near. Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) talk say dem wan do nationwide permanent voter card revalidation. Some opposition parties, civil society people, and political groups dey fear say this exercise fit make plenty people wey dey rural area no fit vote. Dem talk say e go hard for people to find information. E go need correct way to do am, and all these things go make am tough for rural area. Dem still talk say the timing no good because e dey just few months before election, and e fit make voter turnout low and people no go trust election again. For another story, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar don sign $1.2 million contract with one company for United States to make his name strong for international matter and boost his political image for 2027 election. The contract go run for 1 year and it go focus on how him go dey meet US government people and make his name shine abroad. This one happen as plenty strong politicians dey struggle inside African Democratic Congress to get the party presidential ticket. Another gbege wey happen for Kaduna be say some bad people wey dem dey call bandits don kill 7 people and carry others go. This one happen for church inside Ariko Kacha local government area, Kaduna State. The attack happened on Sunday morning during Easter celebration. Dem attack First Equa Church and St. Augustine Catholic Church, wey scatter everybody for area. Local councillor Mark Bawa talk say dem still dey count people wey die because bad network sef fit make security no reach quick. Lassa fever wahala don worse for Nigeria as 146 people don die so far. Bauchi and Taraba State dey get past the other states for death number. Health workers talk say disease dey spread for many states and plenty people don get am, wey make dem dey fear say e fit hard to control. For Obodo Oyibo, one new survey for United Kingdom talk say Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch dey the most popular political leader. Survey wey More in Common do show say her net approval rating don reach -9, better from before wey e be -32. She beat other leaders like Nigel Farage and Ed Davey. Labour leader Keir Starmer na in dey bottom. For Middle East, Iran don do plenty military action again. Dem fire missile and drone for Israel, Kuwait and United Arab Emirates. This one happened after US President Donald Trump yarn say make Iran open the Strait of Hormuz, wey important for oil. Trump still talk say if dem no obey, serious wahala go happen. Iran sef yarn back say dem go give devastating wahala if anybody attack civilian place again. This one show say tension for that area don rise well well. My people, now all wetin we get for today be that. Make I quickly leave una to Zainab Ibrahim.
Thank you so much, Sidika Yusuf, for that story. With this, we've come to the end of S24 Rundown. Please do join us tomorrow, same time, as you follow us on all our social media platforms at S24 Television. My name is Zainab Ibrahim.